The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network. Any questions or concerns about what is said should be directed to the show host, whose information will be provided upon request.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? You are watching Charlotte Black Live Morning Coffee, and I am your host, Charlotte Black. How is everybody out there doing? I am doing pretty good. Now, you know I have a story. So, let's see. I don't even know. You guys, I don't even know where to begin. I came on, I'm just all over the place because I didn't get rest. That's my real issue. Well, I got rest, but I didn't rest like I normally do. Which, the story now leads into what our topic is this morning, which, by the way, is setting boundaries, the 4 Gs. So, the 4 Gs are guilt, grief, grace, and gratitude. Okay. So, let me give you this first scenario, okay? So, I have a friend, and, we used to date at one time, and, I realized that we weren't quite on the same playing field, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that negatively, I just mean that, people grow different. I grow in one direction, they grow in another direction. Like, it was a seasonal relationship. So just like with, some relationships where, you have one person that recognizes that they've gone as far as they can go in that current situation, but the other person isn't quite there yet. So they kind of hang on a little bit. And, sometimes what we tend to do in those situations is out of a certain kind of, guilt, you try to, it's like coddle or ease your way out, so to speak. Okay. So anyway, I've been friends with this person, and, we get together every so often and do some stuff together, but, we live in different places and that kind of thing. So anyway, we had a conversation one day about, what I was doing and all this stuff. And I'm one of those people that, first of all, I don't like people to push their agendas on me. I can't stand that. That's difficult for me to, I'm like, what? No. Huh? So it's difficult for me to, I just don't do well with that. Let's just go with that. I don't do well with that. So, they were trying to come over, and I was like, no, I have things to do. I'm just going to have to, what is it that you need? Because the relationship now has gone from, it can become a little bit aggravating sometimes because they're constantly trying to be in my presence, which, don't get me wrong, I think that's great. But I don't want it to become, this codependent thing. And so to kind of prevent that, I try to limit, I like to do stuff with them, but I don't want to do too much because I don't want to give the wrong impression. So anyway, they call me, they say, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, nothing. I've got stuff going on, so I can't really, do whatever. I got things to do. And they're like, okay, they were irritated. They're kind of going through some stuff. So they was a little bit irritated. And they're like, okay, fine. Hung up the phone, done. I go about my day. I do my thing. I'm chilling. I'm preparing for whatever it is I need to prepare for my next day. Everything is good. I lay down. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those people that when I lay my body down, right, and I close that eye, real good, and it gets real dark, and you about to slip into that good sleep, I do not want to be disturbed. And that is exactly what happened. I was disturbed, y'all. I was. I was about to slip into that sleep. I saw myself just kind of drifting. I felt myself kind of drifting off, getting light, and the doorbell rings. And I'm like, did I just hear the doorbell ring? No, that can't be right. Because I look at my phone and I'm like, it's 12:30 at night. And nobody visits me at 12:30 at night. What the hell is going on? So I started not to answer the door. But then I'm like, if there's something wrong, right? And let me go answer it. But I already had a feeling that it was this person. So anyway, I opened up the door. They are bloody, and they've been drinking, and I'm thinking, first of all, what the hell happened? And what are you doing here? And why are you driving when you this toe up? So anyway, it was just this whole scenario that took place and made me very irritated. Now that I've told the story, this person and I have always had issues with like boundaries, right? And this is what we're going to get into after the break. We're going to get more into the topic. When I said, listen, let's be friends, I no longer want to, the relationship's not working for me, but I still would like to be your friend. I enjoy you, but I don't see us as a couple. And of course they were like, okay. But what ended up happening is they, in my opinion, took this opportunity, even though I said I'm busy or whatever, I felt like they tried to force their agenda on me, because we had already spoke about coming over or not coming over, right? And I said no. And then later on the night, they come over and they've got all these issues like, oh, it's almost like a setup, right? Oh, I got all these issues. You got to take care of me right now. I have to be here. And to some extent it worked, because, you don't want to send someone away and they've been drinking or whatever. So, I set up a little pallet or whatever thing on the couch and let them sleep on the couch or whatever. So when I start talking about boundaries, right? These are the type boundaries I'm talking about. And I know I might kind of be a little bit, I'm not sure if I'm a little bit scattered, but I'm hoping you guys can follow where I'm going with this, and it'll get clear in the discussion. But I want to talk about when people are compromising your line, right? In that moment, in that situation, I needed my energy to conserve for something else that I was trying to do for me. And I felt that person infringed upon that, because in their mind, their issues and their situation was more important than my boundary, I guess. Yeah, my boundary. So I want to talk about why it's important to set boundaries and what happens when you don't set the boundaries. Because in all honesty, right, had I set the boundary a long time ago with this person, we probably wouldn't have had this issue, right? But no, I set the boundary, but then I tried to walk the line, you know what I mean? I didn't want to cross the boundary, but I tried to walk the line. I'm like, well, let's be friends and let's hang out and let's be cool or whatever. But in this particular case, that didn't work. That works for some people. In this particular case, it didn't work. And so while I was trying to walk the line, he was trying to push the line, if that makes sense. Okay. And I do have another example as well, and I will articulate that a little bit clearer. But, I can feel the heaviness just trying to explain the story, because it was just, I'm like, why would you do that? You already know, what's going on. And I know that there's some people out there going, oh my God, they showed up to your door, blah, 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 blah. Why would you feel this way? Well, first of all, every man is responsible for himself. You already know if you are drinking too much, because there are a whole lot of other variables that come into play here, and I'm just not trying to put it all out there. But every man is responsible for himself. You know what your limits are. And you should stay within your limits so that you don't become, I'm going to use burden loosely, a burden to someone else. You know what I mean? Everybody needs help sometimes. I get it. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who are pushing their own agendas to get what they want, and they do not respect the boundaries that you have put in place. That's what we're talking about. If I'm telling you this is where I'm at, right, and you're compromising the line, despite the fact that I've told you, and we're also talking about if I've drawn my sand in the line and I don't respect my own boundaries, like, because what you allow will continue. So we're kind of looking at it from two perspectives, because I'm trying to stay, of course, objective about the topic. I just feel like, it's something important we need to touch on. I think a lot of times we don't set boundaries when we need to, or we set the boundaries and we violate them ourselves, right? Or well, those are the two views, and that is kind of how we're going to attack this position. Now, when the 4Gs come in, when we start talking about once you set the boundaries, what happens, like what process you go through, right? So the moment you set a boundary, sometimes you get this feeling of guilt, like it feels bad. This is the reason why you may go back on, this is why you might compromise your own line. You don't stand in your truth, right? Because when you set a boundary, you're standing your truth. This is what I know to be true for me. And when you compromise it, now you're not doing that. So this is the perspective that I'm presenting from, that I'm coming from. So the first term or process, the first stage in this process that I'm proposing is guilt. We're like, dang, I feel bad about, what I just did, about what has happened. And you get this guilty feeling. The second stage is kind of like a grief, right? And when I say grief, I mean like loss. Like the generic term of grief is like a loss. You are sad or void, or you feel a void because of something that you feel that you've lost. So that's the perspective I'm coming from there. And then the next stage in the process would be grace. And grace is when you find your poise, right? You find your qua. You're like, I'm good. This is I'm straight, right? So that's what I mean by like your grace. That it's almost like that moment you can't really term. You can't. It's just like you get that feeling of poise is the best way that I can define it at this moment. And then the last thing in the stage would be the gratitude. Just being grateful. Like this is like after you've gone through everything, right? And you've reflected back and you look at it and you go, yeah, now I can see, the importance, the lesson in the whole process, and being grateful for at least being able to understand why you went through it or what you actually went through. So that is what we're going to talk about this morning. And this was actually not sparked by the actual situation that happened. It was actually sparked by something I heard on YouTube, because I listen to a lot of different YouTube channels, again, in that spiritual community. And she was talking about boundaries, and it just kind of sparked the idea that it's really important to set these boundaries, and why, we need to set the boundaries, and what happens when we don't set the boundaries, and kind of the process that we go through once we set the boundaries. Now, I think the process is something that I kind of, I'll just say it was divinely given. So it didn't come out of any book. But I chose those 4Gs because I went with that because if we kind of understand what we, that we're going through this, it makes it easier to navigate through those feelings. And that's one of the reasons why I want to make sure we talk about it. So I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, of course, my co-host will be with me, and we will talk about setting boundaries, the 4Gs. Okay. See you when we get back.
WBGR Network Client Appreciation and Networking Event.
What have you gotten out of this Appreciation Day today?
Well, this has been a wonderful day. I'm really pleased to be able to network and meet so many fabulous people that are on the WBGR network. It's really amazing, all the wonderful talent and all the wonderful programs that WBGR showcases every day. It's been a tremendous blessing to me to be here.
Look at the bright white canvas that's sitting in front of me that's blank, and I get frustrated because I can't think of any images to make. I'm discombobulated, trying to find the right words to get articulated, speech becoming modulated. I guess what I'm trying to state is, I'm tired.
This is the moment where you do the little snaps on there, because this needs all this. I wish I could make my toes snap.
Amazing event, WBGR, and this event is tremendous. We have so much talent.
Wait, let me put it back on.
Welcome back. Seriously.
What? What? You gotta have a moment, you know? I had a moment.
Is that what you're... Okay. All right, I'm going to give you your moment. So what's going on? Before we get into this, I don't want you to jump in.
I want to get in.
You just want to jump in?
I've been watching. I want to get in it. I want to know about it.
Okay. So you heard the story?
Yeah, I heard the story.
Okay. So these boundaries are very important.
I think they are.
They are very important. I think that if we don't set boundaries, right, we can give away too much of ourselves and not have enough to make ourselves happy. I don't know. We just give too much energy away if we don't set these boundaries. People will drain us, and you'll give and give and give and give, and then you don't make room for you.
I agree. I think.
Good. I'm glad you agree.
Not only do I agree. What I would add to that is, I try to speak empowerment when I'm doing relationship coaching. So it's not about what people are doing to you. It's about what you're doing to yourself.
Yes.
And what your boundaries do is they help you not only to protect yourself, so you're in that way you're helping yourself, but they're also helping others. Because some people just don't know.
And I believe I kind of spoke to that. I think I did.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it sounds like he knows. Some people know. Some
and
people
then they just try to take,
They just try to take advantage. Because here's the deal. They're watching you, not your boundary.
Right.
So you draw the line so you have a reference so that you know where to stop moving because you're in control. They're not watching the line. They're watching you. As you move closer to your boundary, they move closer. You answer the door. I'm in the house.
Yes.
That's how it rolls.
Yes,
you know?
that's exactly how it went down.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons too why I wanted to talk about these 3 G's, right? Because the 4 G's, thank
Don't
you.
leave the
the fourth
G
one out.
out.
That's a very important G, by the way.
Yeah.
The first thing that happened was guilt, because I laid there and I was like, I'm not answering this door. But then I was like, if you don't answer the door and something is really, then what?
Yeah.
You answer the door. Answer the door, you get this whole sob story. Now I'm pissed off. But at the same time, I'm like, the guilt is still riding me. So I'm like, well, what kind of person would I be if I send a drunk person home, you know, and they could get in an accident? Now I'm taking on...
You're taking on his responsibility.
His responsibility,
yeah.
yes. And so, anyway, that's how I led to the whole couch situation, which, of course, that person, you know, some people who are inebriated, they, you know, it was one of those situations that was just calling my name on. I'm like, oh my gosh, please go to sleep. It's ridiculous. But anyway, at the end of the day, I recognize my part in that situation, right? Which stemmed before then, because like I said, the line could have been drawn and listen, you know what, this is not going to work because, you know, the line has been compromised before. And I was like, okay, all right, I get it. You know, it's cool. We'll just work it out. Because, you know, we're friends. You do things to help me out sometimes around the house. I do things for you. And it's been amicable. It's been a relationship that has worked. But until it got to the point where you're doing too much. So, I think a relationship works until it doesn't. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So a relationship works for one until it doesn't.
Yes.
You know. But then if the relationship is still working, it may not be working to your
my advantage.
To your advantage. But it's still working.
But here's the thing, though. This is what I would argue. If it's working to one partner's advantage and not to the other, then it's not working. Because a relationship doesn't really function unless both sides are functioning. When I mean working, I don't mean... let me clarify that.
Yeah, please do. I'm waiting on this.
I mean, like... if it's not balanced, it's not really working. It's functioning, but it's not working.
But that's based on perspective. So there are a ton of abusive relationships that I could use to counter your point. For one person, it's working. For the other person, it's not working. But the relationship is still working.
It's
not
functioning.
balanced. It's not balanced, but if you define working, it's not working. If I define working and I'm the person ringing the doorbell, it worked. You were there for me. Flip it around. Let's say he has emotional feelings for you. You just want a handyman. Every time he comes over, he gets a wrench and a screwdriver and the next task. What he really wants is to spend some time. For him, it's not working. For you, it's working just fine. So you got to recognize what it is you want to get and gather from the relationship. And when those things aren't working for you, then you make a decision based on what's on your side of the argument. That's the place where we agree.
Okay.
So you're saying it's not working. I'm saying it's not working for you. But for the other individual, it is. And that's when you have to call it. Because now we're not just talking about a boundary. In your scenario, you spoke to the fact that you had a relationship and then you decided to move it from one category to another.
Yes.
Right? But he didn't respect that move.
No, he didn't.
He never did. He said,
That's all he said.
Yeah.
Yes, but in his mind, right, there's this hope.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm saying, where I could have drawn the line in the sand a long time ago, because I almost kind of perpetuated it to this state, in my opinion, because with him having that state of mind and me not just cutting it clean, it gave him hope that there was a get back.
Boom.
And in my mind, there was no get back.
Right.
I just was like, well, we cool.
No, in your mind, there was a get busy with that sink over there.
Can you go finish?
Can you get
Oh, that sounds so
lawn,
awful.
right?
But the truth is what it is,
It is
right?
what it is.
It is what it is. And so at the end of the day, right, and I did try to, and this is what a lot of people, I know there are a lot of people out there who can understand where I'm coming from. You try to wean yourself out. Like, no, that's okay. I can fix that. Don't worry about it. You know, you try to like not have them come around so much, and and I have a big heart. You know what I mean? And I don't like to be mean. I try to be, you know, a good person, whatever. But everybody has, as my grandmother says, even iron wears out, and you get to a point where you can't take anymore. So after the line being compromised, you know, so much, you just get to a point where you're like, listen, I can't do it. And for me, it was the coming over to the house at midnight talking about I need you, because he tried to ride his situation to make me feel the guilt so that I would allow him to stay, which worked. I mean, because if he had shown up, nothing was wrong with him, that would have been like, have you lost your damn mind? And go home.
Of course.
Right. But because there was an issue, right, bleeding and whatever, then I'm like, dang.
He's bleeding?
Yeah, it was bleeding. It's a whole long story. There's so much to the story I'm not telling. I'm trying to give the basics.
Sound like one of them, a preview to a movie.
Yeah, it is.
He bleeding.
He was bleeding.
He came to your house bleeding.
He came to my house bleeding in the middle of the night.
Drip, drip.
Bleeding, stumbling in the middle of the night. So of course I couldn't send him. I didn't feel comfortable sending him away that way, like that. So that's why I allowed him to stay. And when he was better, you know, he went on about his way. But he had an attitude because I basically said, I'm seeing somebody else, so this cannot continue. I tried to be your friend, and we can't be friends because you won't respect the friendship. You won't respect the line that I've drawn. So, you know, we can't do this anymore. So you can stay until you get yourself together, and then you have to leave. And the response was, I'm leaving. You seeing somebody else. I'm never coming back. Oh, okay.
Ooh. Deuces.
Done. And then there was like this weight that lifted, because now I feel like I don't have to.
But then I think you still had a piece of you that was like.
Well, it was, you know, you have a piece that's like a little bit of grief.
All it wants.
No, not that kind. You feel a little bad because, you know, you think about the things that you did with the person, right? Like, we had a good time. You know, we would do stuff and it was fun.
So I just want you to acknowledge something. That what you're talking about is not him crossing the line. It's you
crossing the line. And I did say that.
And that's the same thing with this whole discussion.
It is the same thing.
It's like you set a boundary. Don't worry about the other person's proximity to the boundary. Worry about your own. The boundary is for you.
Right.
Now, it gives the person awareness that I have this line. But then they're never going to watch the line. They're always going to have their eyes on you. And so.
That's a great point.
Your movement is what they're moving off of. And the fact that you've gotten so close to the line and backed away, that's where the guilt comes in. It starts to amplify.
Right.
Because you know that there are times where you have contributed to.
Absolutely.
And so you know he has a fair expectation that you're the person that he can come to. Because basically, that's the part of the relationship you've preserved.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And then now it comes to a head and it's like, oh no, get out. Of course he mad. And when he leaves, he's like, I'm never coming back here again. Then you're like, man, that was rough. Then the silence of the house hits you. And if you're not careful, you start looking for that device.
Right. I'm so glad. And this is what I'm talking about. That's how we get into this process.
Mm-hmm. And
that is how you end up compromising the line again.
That's right.
That's exactly how it happens. Because the guilt is really, if we're looking at it from just your perspective, it's you being out of energetic alignment with your own truth.
Yes.
And that's where the guilt really comes from. It's not really, and I think I misstated earlier. I said, you know, well, he made me feel guilty. Really, he can't make me feel guilty. He can't make you feel anything. I felt guilty.
That's right.
Because I wasn't standing in my own truth and saying, this is not what I want here. This is not what we, you know what I mean? And I didn't respect my own line. And because of that, he was able to do whatever. And he would get away with it.
So what is guilt? Guilt is fault. That's all it is. It's the feeling that derives from fault. If there was no fault, there'd be no guilt. So what you're recognizing is, I've done some things that have contributed to those things. And just so we can get to the other 3 G's, I'm going to just say this. If you want to avoid that, don't do things that contribute to it. When you draw the line, you respect the line.
You respect your own line.
You respect your own line. You get serious about it. This is what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't care how late you call.
Right.
I don't care how loud you scream. I don't care how much you cry. I'm not walking this path again.
Right.
And they will ultimately know the line by knowing you, knowing your changes.
Well, and if you stand firm against your line and they're watching you, they see you stand firm against your line, and they won't compromise it. You won't allow them to compromise it.
And in there's no room for guilt, because they are clearly at fault. You know, they crossed the line all on their own. They did. All on their own. He came, rang the door at 12:30. Knew he wasn't supposed to. We don't get down like that. You don't call me without 6 days notice. This is not what we do. You know it. I'm not answering. As a matter of fact, I'm about to call the man
to come get you
with the lights.
Right.
Flashing.
But by answering, and I just want to be clear, by answering the door, I compromise my own line. Because what did I say earlier, you guys? I said, I cannot stand to be awakened out of my sleep and you don't show up at my door without calling me. And I didn't get a phone call, and nor, it was late. Yeah. And here's the reality. As a grown person, if you could drive to my house, you could drive home.
Yeah.
How about that? But in that moment, I didn't look at it that way.
No.
So here's a note I took down. Setting boundaries can be very uncomfortable, and they can. Mm-hmm. But it allows you to stand in your power and speak your truth and exercise your truth.
I believe it.
All right, then.
100%.
Yes.
What else we got?
So, that was my story about how, when you set boundaries and compromise them. Mm-hmm. So I have another story.
Uh-oh.
Where a boundary was set and it was not compromised.
Okay.
Good
news story.
This had to do with one of my children. They shared their story with me. They told me I could share it on the air. So one of my kids was dating someone. Mm-hmm. And everything was going good. And then things started going not so good, mm-hmm. right? And, my child tried to handle the situation, but it was more than they could really handle. Mm-hmm. And obviously at some point it came to a head, mm-hmm. right? And, they were carrying all the bills, they were paying all the bills, they were doing everything that they thought they should do and more than they should have done, mm-hmm. right? Trying to take care of another person, right? So a moment came where they felt like, I'm not doing this anymore. And the specific incident was, listen, where's your half of the rent? And they were like, oh, I'm not paying it. I said, okay. I started packing this. And the other person was like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm packing my stuff. I can't force you to pay the rent. But the apartment's not even in my name. Why would I stay and try to take care of something that you yourself don't even care about taking? You don't care about taking care of it. You don't care about your score. You don't care about how, you don't care about your responsibilities. Why am I trying to take on responsibilities you don't even care about? Mm-hmm. So basically what ended up happening, they packed all their stuff and they rolled out and they helped send this person home to their family, and it was a done deal. And the feeling that my baby conveyed to me was the 3 G's. Like at first it felt bad doing it, but it's like, I gotta do this, because if I don't, it's not gonna come out right. It's not gonna work out right. I'm gonna be miserable. So they felt that guilt piece just for a moment. Like, I feel badly, but not. And they pushed through that. And then after the guilt, they felt a little bit of a grief, like a loss, because, that person's no longer there, like the silence you talked about, right? So they went through that. And then when they got to where they were going, there was like this grace they felt, like a poise, like a... And then came the gratitude. They were able to look back on it and go, I am so glad that I did that. And then it's like, from that moment, they were able to see the lesson. They were able to see their pattern. They were able to be grateful for recognizing the pattern, getting out of the pattern, and moving forward.
That makes sense.
That's all.
Oh, that's how I go. I mean, that's simply stated. That's how it should be. Now, I heard something about they helped them to get to their family.
Well,
but I mean, that can be a parting. So words have power when we make them powerful words.
Yes, that's true.
And so, the only place where I said she may have been able, or he may have been able to begin to derive some guilt, is because they may not have said, this is the last time I'm paying all the rent. Yeah. See, sometimes you come to a revelation in your life, the light comes on, it shines down upon you, and you say, heareth me now, as I speaketh unto you. Verily I say unto thee.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. Right? Then guilt will come because there was no warning.
Right.
But if you just simply say, you know what? This day, the 8th of October, is the last day that I'm going to pay all the rent. So you have 30 days to figure this out.
Right.
Or I'm going to be forced to do something about it.
Right.
And I'm not going to say what that is. I don't quite know right now. I haven't got. But I'm telling you, something will come.
Something's going down.
And chances are you're not going to like it.
Right. So maybe, the peace offering, and we do that, right? Yeah. We will offer, an olive branch or a peace offering when we feel like maybe we didn't provide ample amount of time, right? Because, even in my situation, I've done that. It was a peace offering. Right. I opened the door, whatever.
You offered the peace.
Okay.
What happened? No, you offered the peace.
Offering. The PEACE.
That's what we're talking about. Peace. Let there be peace.
Okay, so right, that the peace of that didn't even look right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
I know what you mean.
So it's a peace offering, and her peace offering was, listen, here's a couple of dollars, go home and be there, right? And that's what it was. End of story.
And then you close it.
And it was done. And the feeling was like, man, I feel great. This is over with, and I'm moving on. And things have just been unfolding. Because once you stand in your truth and you're walking your path, things will just fall into place for you. Like when you're not walking your truth, it's like everything gets thrown in your way. You're like, God dang it. Tripping over stuff, and why is this not working? Yeah. That's how you're feeling, because you're not really walking your path. You're not walking your truth. And sometimes in setting these boundaries, it can be very, very uncomfortable. But you have to trust that you know what's best for you, and that you are the authority on you. Because we can't control what someone else thinks or does.
No, we can't.
And even when, and you made a great point in my story, even when they don't respect your line in the sand, you have to respect your line in the sand.
Because that's what you're accountable for. It's the only
That's the only thing that you're accountable for. You're not accountable for how they feel, what they're going through, what their circumstances are. You are not accountable. They are accountable for their own situation. Their own situation. You know, and I think that anytime someone does something for someone like that, that's just them being what's the word I'm looking for? Generous.
Yeah.
Because no one has to do anything for anyone. And people get in this mindset, you owe me, you got to do this for me.
Entitlement.
No, and it is not so, people. It is not so. No one has to do anything. You're not entitled to anything from anyone else.
So here's the deal. You can't tell an entitled person that they aren't owed something because they come into the world like,
yes, this is
I'm
very
supposed
true.
to have this job. It was given to me on the Father. He done said it shall be mine. It is mine. You can't tell an entitled
I have been
person,
crowned.
right? This is good. Look, you see the shine? That shine. That's the anointing. This is mine, right? You can't tell them anything about it, and you can't tell a person who is a giver that they shouldn't give.
Yes, this is
They're
very
going to
true.
give. Now, what I'm saying is, if you're giving, you should give in a way that there is appreciation.
Right.
Because you may not feel you have a choice but to give, but you can choose where to give and when to give and who to give to.
Okay.
That's your power. And if you're giving to people who have no appreciation, you're not doing yourself, because part of your joy comes from giving, but they'll never receive. They're never going to benefit. They're never going to build. You're just going to build their sense of entitlement for mo to the mo.
Okay. I mean, I've experienced that. I have.
Yeah.
And it's true. I've always said, right? I'm a giver. You can't tell me not to give because that's not natural for me.
Not natural.
It's not natural. But what I have to do, again, is draw that line in the sand. I have to create my own boundaries. If I'm giving to someone, I truly give. I give it, I let that thing go and go on about my business. And for me, there's no ties to the gift that I'm giving. Therefore, there's no more connection. I've given, I've let it go, and I've gone about my business. That's my line in the sand. And I think that's the way you can do it without complicating the whole giving situation.
That's all it is. So let me just share with you the parable of the loan officer in me, right? Because I got an issue with this here. All right, so here's the deal. When someone comes to me and they say, "Hey man, can you loan me this?" I always have the same conversation. My brother, my sister. This is my money. I give to you, but it is mine. Right? I expect my money to come back to me. That's what I expect. I'm giving it to you that you may give it back. I don't want you to have to put extra on it.
Right.
It don't have to. The cup don't have to run. It don't have to be pressed down, shaken together. I'm just saying it needs to come back to me because it's my money. It's my money to help you, but then I expect it to come back.
Right.
That's one side of it. The other side, the hidden side, is my parents taught me a long time ago, you don't loan anything you're not willing to lose.
Yes, indeed.
So when they ask for the number, I look and I see, can I lose that number?
Right.
Kind of like going to Vegas. Like, can I afford to lose? What am I going to gamble today? You start gambling your mortgage, you in
that's
trouble.
A problem. It's
that's
a
on
problem.
You. So I don't loan anything that I'm not willing to lose. Right. Now, my money don't come back. I don't loan no more. You just lost that. And if you don't feel bad about that, then God bless you. I don't feel bad about it because I didn't loan anything I wasn't willing to lose in the first place.
Right.
And that's where it ends. But the next time you come to me with hands extended, you're going to get dap. And that is.
And that's it. And that is
what up,
and you stay to that boundary. And that's just what it is. You know,
Done.
and if someone crosses the boundary once, they will cross it again.
They will.
They will. And I think that if you set a boundary and people don't honor it, they don't respect it, then maybe that's somebody you need to reconsider.
Yeah.
Them being in your space because they don't respect you or your boundary.
Exactly. Now I got to revisit. Like if you family, then you still family.
Family, right.
You're just not loan eligible. Your loan application is denied upon receipt.
Absolutely. Because you ain't family no more.
No, you will still be family. I just don't ever give you nothing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And it does. It will require you to reevaluate that connection. Yeah. You're not honoring my boundaries. I mean, what kind of connection really is it?
Yeah.
You know, now you got to fight for your position. You shouldn't have to do that with people who honor and respect you.
Boom. So this goes into your second G, which I believe was grief.
Grief.
So you grieve loss when you feel you have a loss. But in most cases, the loss you feel is really not a loss at all.
No, it's not.
Because it never was what you thought it was to
in
begin
the first
with.
place. That's right.
In this case, you're like, I lost a good friend. But he never was a good friend because he never wanted to be a good friend. He never wanted to be a friend at all.
He didn't honor and respect
He didn't honor and respect the friendship. So you have lost nothing.
Right.
So you feel
it's a guilt, perceived loss.
You feel guilt because of your fault in it, with only the things you did. Then you feel lost based on something that isn't even a loss. It was never what you thought it was to begin with.
Right. So I would go as far as to say again that it's not really a real loss. Right. It's a perceived loss.
It's a perceived loss.
Yeah.
Just like perceived guilt.
Perceived guilt. And then the grace is when you come to that moment where you're like, oh.
Yeah. But no one can give you that. That's the thing about it. No one can give you that grace.
No.
You got to give it to yourself.
You have to come into that.
Yeah, you come
And that is a all by yourself type of thing.
No one can turn that knob.
And so is the gratitude.
Thank you.
So is the gratitude. And, when you talk about being grateful, when you look back on these situations and you come to that moment or that aha moment, or you have that epiphany, or you understand, you come to that moment of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back, you got to be grateful for that because you were able to see for the lesson.
I think part of the grateful piece is that you gain an appreciation for the experience. And you know the appreciation by the actions.
Absolutely.
So here I'm going to go back again to that. You know appreciation by the actions.
Mm-hmm.
You know appreciation by the actions. So how do I know that I appreciate the experience? Because I'm going to take certain actions. Because I went through something.
Right.
I went through this period where I felt guilty for something that I really did that I shouldn't have done.
Right.
Okay. I went through grief for a loss that wasn't even
really a loss.
It's just what I perceived.
Okay.
And I was delusional in that.
Right.
Okay. I had to walk this journey to get to grace. Because there was a period where I denied myself that grace.
You came to a state of grace.
You come to it, but what I'm saying is between grief and grace, there's a period of time where you're without. Because you haven't afforded yourself the ability to really feel free.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through all of this, and now I'm grateful for the experience, but I know how I'm grateful? Because I'm not going to do this no more.
Right.
I'm going to change the policies. I'm about to rewrite some stuff here because I'm not going to do this anymore.
We're not going through this again.
Recalibrate. I might just look across all my friends and just reevaluate who is a friend and who's not a friend. And do I have anybody else in this category that I might need to affirm the line with?
Right. Gotcha.
Because we've been teetering on some things. We had a glass of wine or something.
When you start cleaning out, you don't just clean out one corner. You clean out the whole thing.
Cleaning. We go through, hey, I just want to have a conversation. About what, bro? About our friendship. I just want to be very clear about this.
Absolutely.
That is what we are.
Absolutely.
Right? Keep shining, keep smiling, player. We friends.
Yeah.
That's it. Right, so you're gonna take action that shows your appreciation, that shows that you are now accountable for everything you have been through until your arrival to where you are on that day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. So I say that to say you out of control. You know, and I think the thing that I most want to, I guess, reiterate is, although drawing sometimes setting boundaries, like I said, can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary to do that. Because at the end of the day, we are only accountable for ourselves.
That's right. That's it.
And if something goes down, who do you really have to blame? No one but yourself. So if you are uncomfortable with something in a situation, you need to stand in your truth on that and draw your sand in the line and be true to that line. Don't compromise it. If you don't want other people to compromise it, you can't compromise it. You can't not respect your line and expect other people to respect your line. And that's huge, because we do it without even thinking about it. We do it without even realizing that we've compromised our own line.
That's right.
And so we just have to be really mindful, and don't allow that, if you're feeling guilty, take that as like an alarm that you are not in alignment with your truth. Rethink that thing. If you're starting to feel guilt about anything, I would rethink it and see why I'm feeling the guilt. Like, where am I out of alignment? Why am I feeling like this? And the same thing with the loss. You're feeling this loss. Before you go back and compromise that line, please reevaluate and make sure, so that you make sure that your loss is a loss. Because most of the time it's not really a loss.
Yeah. If you will, let me just take a couple of minutes just to build on this point, because we have a very specific story, a sad story in which somebody was awoken from their sleep. But boundaries are boundaries no matter where you draw them. And you can draw a boundary in many different situations.
Absolutely.
There's somebody out there right now who's like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with no crazy women or crazy men.
Right.
I've had my share of ups and knockdowns.
Right. Got it.
I'm not doing this no more, right?
Yeah.
So you draw that line. It's a boundary. Now, people aren't watching your boundary. They're watching you.
Yep.
And so when you start, you get the signs of craziness, but you go, let me tell you, I remember way back in the day, back when I was in Washington State, so that clears me of all wrongdoing. Back when I was in Washington State, I was in the club one time, and I ran into this girl I hadn't seen in like 2 years. And she was looking good. Like, she had a little cat suit joint. I was like, oh, snap, son. Like, woo! Man, how you doing? So I'm gonna just say her name was Mary. That ain't her name, right? So
I thought you was gonna say Candy.
No, not Candy. She looked like it though. So I said, how you doing? What's going on? And she just kind of blew me off, like, yeah, I'm good, and then walked. And I was like, no. She
challenge.
Oh, change has come over.
Right.
Oh, that's how we do it, right?
Right.
So then later on, she kind of came back around my way, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm here with some people, so I couldn't really communicate. But if you give me your number, I can call you." And I'm like,
right.
"All right, whatever." I just was like, "Okay, whatever." Here. Do you know, between the time I left that club and between the time me getting back to my room, in the span of about an hour and a half, she called me 67 times.
Yeah, dog.
And left at least 30 messages.
That's crazy.
30. I'm so sorry. Look, I normally don't do this,
I don't know. That don't sound like.
I don't, but it was so nice seeing you. I really hope we can get together. What are you doing tonight? Okay, well, I don't want to buy. I know it's late. Okay, look, I'm sorry. Boop. Okay, listen.
Ooh, I know that situation.
And I'm like, this girl is crazy. What is going on here? But I didn't respect my own line.
Right.
Time went on. I got further from first contact with craziness, and she called, and she was like, "Can you help me out with this ASVAB test? I'm trying to, test to go in the military. I know you're in the military. Can you come over and study with me?"
Right.
What made me think?
You opened the door.
No, I did.
You answered.
I answered the
door. He answered the knock at the door.
I shouldn't have done that. Now I'm fighting and. Ain't no ass fat to be found. I'm fighting.
Oh my God!
And I wouldn't even have to be there.
Right.
Now I feel bad. Damn.
But what was your initial feeling like when you saw all these calls? I mean, did you?
She crazy.
You like, oh my God! So you didn't really respect your own.
That's what I'm saying. That's a boundary. It's not.
I just wanted to make that clear.
I didn't respect my own line. It's like I knew I had come up with the lines of what craziness looks like.
Right. And you didn't respect those lines.
I didn't respect it.
You opened the door.
Now I'm accountable for my action.
Yes.
Because I shouldn't have even answered that call. I should have never even called back. I allowed her to apologize and feel resolve, which I didn't owe her resolve.
Right.
And then after she felt resolved, then she felt like she could call me just to, check in.
Yep.
Now we have a relationship that is beyond anything that should have been.
Yep.
Just her checking in. There's no reason for her to check in with me. I have no want to be her friend or anything else.
Yeah.
Right? I know she wants other things. I have no desire for any of that. And then it comes down to the ask. And it was in my lane. It's something I'm very capable of doing. I'm trying to help out the United States Army, of which I'm proud of. And
but that's how they do that.
It resulted in turmoil.
But that's how people do. They will come in. They will try to attack. It's like an attack in a guise with the guys. And the guys was, oh, I need your help on the ass fab, or oh my God, I'm bleeding. I need assistance right now, or oh, I feel so bad about whatever. Or, oh, I need your help. Or, oh, I need you to fix my plumbing. Or whatever it is, those are guises. And people use them to spend time.
Yeah, to get it. They're trying to cross the boundary. They're breaching.
They're trying to breach the boundary. Infiltrate.
Infiltrate. They on the other side of
the line.
We have been put up. The line has been breached.
The line has been,
Yeah.
That's exactly.
They behind the fence now.
Exactly.
Now you trying to
deal with the aftermath.
You got to try to get him out. You trying to get him out the fence. You
trying to push him out the fence. Men holes.
And it's just like dust. It just keeps blowing back
in. Yes, indeed. So listen. Stay true to your lines. Stay true when you draw your boundaries. Be true to them.
And communicate them.
And communicate them. That way you don't have to worry about that whole.
That's right.
It eliminates most of that guilt stuff. Because even when you come to the conclusion, when you come to the point where you're like, this is a line for me, right? Even if you didn't know it before, whenever you come to that realization that it is a line, this is my truth, I am not moving past this, just communicate it then. Hey, listen, yeah, I get it. But you know what? I'm not comfortable with that, so I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And you can't control what other people do, but you can control what you do.
All day.
And you free to leave. You free to pack up your stuff.
And go.
You ain't got to cuss nobody out. You ain't got to ask for no permission. You ain't got to do none of that. Just pack up your stuff and roll.
Matter of fact, the earlier you draw the boundary, the less you have to pack. You ain't got but so much stuff. I got a toothbrush and a comb. And you see, you can keep the comb.
So that's the show, y'all.
That's it.
I think we need to have a discussion though about maybe we need to have a discussion about types of boundaries.
Definitely.
I think we should do a show on the type of boundaries.
If you're interested in hearing us talk a little bit more about the types of boundaries, let us know. Just, get in the comment box. We have a live watch party going. People being here doing this stuff. People in their false pretenses.
Yeah.
They need to talk about it.
Yes, indeed.
So just chime in. Let us know. And we love to talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So listen, guys, this is the conclusion of our show. So you're going to be flying solo. You flying solo next
I'm
week?
flying solo. So it won't be next week. But I'll wait for you to have that conversation.
Oh yeah, to talk about the boundaries. Because
yeah.
I'm gonna be, I'm gonna really try to call in. I'll be in Canada. Ooh, I'm so excited. Next weekend, and Vince here is going to host the show. Are you
when Kawhi left, they allowed her to come. They couldn't have 2 stars in Canada at once. So she's
okay. Well, I appreciate the stardom title.
That's it. Stardom.
But yeah, so Vince will be here next week, and I'm gonna try to call in and be like, "What's up?" I'm gonna try to send some pictures, but you know, me and technology, don't do it. Don't do it.
It's not her fault though.
Don't
America.
do it.
It's
Don't
not
do
her
it.
fault. She's from.
Don't.
What?
Do it.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
She hails from Sarah Vista, Arizona. You know, they had special classes there. It wasn't.
Listen.
You know, they had to talk about what's relevant in the region, how to catch raindrops when it rain. You know, it's like it's other stuff. You're not. You know, they never had all this stuff. So you gotta.
Don't listen to him, please. There are people on the cutting edge of technology there, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't do it. Just stand down, please. All right, y'all. It has been fun as always, and have a great week. And remember about those boundaries. And you know, check your line. I don't know. All right. See you later. Have a good week.